Hello. Welcome back to Sudden Wealth. I hope you guys are doing very well. If you do enjoy the content, please consider dropping that like and subscribe. As you guys know, it greatly helps the channel. So, what amazing victory. I think he's going to end up with 312 electoral college, which is, a modern day landslide. The Senate is already guaranteed, but I think he's also well positioned at least to get 3 or 4 new seats, more than what the Republicans already got. And the House also seems to be going quite well. Maybe before I start talking about it, one observation by an outsider, okay? To me, it makes no sense how certain states are still counting right now. So you have certain states, with millions and millions of people, no problem, a few hours, everything is done. And then you have other states, Arizona, uh, Alaska now, Nevada. They are still counting. Arizona, I think, is like at 65%. How hard is it? Like, you have even third world countries that can count 20 million votes on a night. So, for an outsider, it's extremely weird to see, like, for example, certain states going incredibly well, and then other states is a complete disaster. It's the same story about the voting laws. I really hope they can do, since they have the Senate and they probably have the House, to do something to the nature of, I think I saw a poll where 85% of the population in the US defends voter ID requirements. Just make an universal law, voter ID, physical ballots all across the country, and that's it. And if somebody complains, well, then you're admitting that you want to cheat. This is what you're doing. But in any case, I think also what happened yesterday, I think, of course, people are talking about all the swing states going into one direction, which obviously was great. But I do believe that people are missing something, or at least most people, which is, if you look at Florida, Ohio, and Texas, we're talking 13, 14, 15% margins. Those margins grew quite aggressively. Particularly Texas surprised me, because with all the immigration coming from the typically more liberal states, I was expecting that one to maybe shift a little bit in composition. But it was a complete destruction. And then if you look at, this is something that I haven't seen many people talking about. If you look at a place like New Jersey, for example, she won by 6 points. Biden won that one by like 20 points. New York, Trump lost it by like 25, 30 points. He lost it by 10. So basically, he's closer to flipping New York than the Democrats are to flipping Florida or Ohio. Think about it, right? I think if they do a very good job over the next 4 years, and they may benefit dramatically from AI starting to gain some traction, I think they are in a position to have a lengthy time of Republican government, particularly if they keep that team together. So, one of the things that I was more vocal about Trump, and I think a lot of people voted for him because of his team: Elon Musk, Robert Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, Tucker Carlson, Vivek, J.D. Vance. The whole thing is packed. With very competent, very responsible people. His results were amazing. I was just checking. He gained a little bit with women, I think plus 2%. He gained about 6% with non-college educated. Then he gained 7% with the black vote, 6% with Hispanics. So there goes the racist theory out the window, right? And he won 10% of young people. And this one, I think, the kid that went to Piers Morgan, that basically was advising him on how to get these podcasts, and the fact that Dana White was really pushing for him to do the podcasts. Podcasts is the game of the younger generation. I can tell you this: I don't watch cable news at all. To me, it's all about Twitter, YouTube, Spotify. I mean, that's it. I mean, I don't even touch anything on mainstream media. Valuetainment, a podcast that endorsed Trump and to where Trump actually went to, was the #1 live stream on YouTube yesterday, way ahead of all the mainstream media. The paradigm is shifting. Comcast is looking to sell MSNBC. Have you guys noticed that? That's a bleeder of a channel. I mean, the world is changing, and I think that Trump going to Joe Rogan and getting his endorsement, going to Valuetainment, going to TiVon, going to Andrew Schultz. I think all of these were very, very good, and maybe pivoting a little bit to the markets. And this was what I mentioned to you about you have three dynamics in any country. Okay, you have the real economy. Now this is day-to-day people, the voters that go and vote, that things that they experience day to day. Then you have whatever fantasy the government numbers trying to tell you. And then you have the stock market, which is linked to liquidity creation, to currency debasement, to printing of money. There's nothing to do, or very little to do, with fundamentals of the economy, unless obviously there's a black swan event like, I don't know, a war or something. Other than that, no, there's no connection. That's why, even with all these troubles in the past, you had so many new all-time highs. Of course, because currency kept on being created, so risk assets kept on going up. Now, why do I say about this the government's fantasies? Very simple. How can people try to tell you that the economy is so strong, and then Trump gets a victory like this, and the #1 reason that everybody points to is the economy? So the numbers are telling you everything is great. But we've been discussing here in this channel many, many times. These numbers mean nothing. If you actually look at the job reports, 1 million of full-time jobs were lost. All these jobs created are government jobs and part-time jobs. These are not great jobs. But you need to look underneath the hood. You cannot just look at the car and assume that everything is great. That's the problem. And the people telling you, people are voting for Trump because of the economy, #1. I mean, like Bill Clinton said, and you can say whatever you want about Bill Clinton, but he was very astute politically. He said, it's the economy, stupid. That's the #1. I mean, at the end of the day, is can I feed my family, with whom is more likely that I'm going to do better, and then they make their own decision. Very simple. But no, very glad for what happened. And indeed, I hope that he does well. Pretty much all the markets are pricing in rate cuts, tax cuts, and better performance. Gold sold off quite aggressively. I think one of the main reasons is the market is starting to price peace. And gold is always, to some degree, end of the world kind of edge, which means that if we have peace, gold loses a part of its appeal. The only thing that I didn't like to see was yields jumping quite aggressively. I get it. Today was a bit of an exception in the sense of, okay, reason why this is happening is basically everyone at the same time is going from a bit of risk off into full risk on. And so in that sense, they sell their risk off assets and they go into risk on assets. So it's not necessarily something structural. But as you guys know, I don't like to see TLT going down too much because we need that stable to also stabilize the other markets. Now, one thing that I need to say, and I don't want to be mean or anything, but is the reality, markets tend to get ahead of themselves a little bit. So was it good for him to be elected for the economy? It's like, sure. Was it good for, probably will push for lower interest rates like it did in the past? Is that a good thing? Yes. But the markets tend to jump a little bit too far off in the positive stance. And so don't be surprised if you see a few corrections here and there, 2% here, 1% there. I mean, the Russell jumped the highest obviously, because it's basically, okay, he's going to protect the US economy, which means US companies will do better. I see the point. I don't disagree with that. I think that's probably right. And basically, all the stock markets are doing very well. And the kings were cryptos. Bitcoin did a new all-time high. Ethereum is up 12% or something like that. Meme coins, Boppy is close to all-time highs. Hoppy is approaching all-time highs. Andy is finally gaining some speed. Pulse Chain, Pulse XX, either and Nikos are also doing better. By the way, obviously, with him being elected, and by the way, sorry, as you guys know, I predicted back in August during the Japanese debacle that we're going to see Bitcoin above 80K before the end of November. It seems that we are approaching that. Once again, now everyone is predicting 80K. Sure, the key was to do it in August, right? When Bitcoin was 48K, just crashed, from 62 to 48K in a day or 2 days. And then everybody was predicting 30K, coming out and saying above 80K before the end of November. That's the difficult part. Now it's easy. Now everybody's predicting, all sorts of crazy stuff. I do believe this is good for two things. Number one, I think he's going to fire Gary Gensler, or basically encourage people that have power to fire him to do so. By the way, the Republicans are also gaining a few attorney generals as well. So not only, that side of the aisle is also being impacted in favor of the Republicans. So complete sweep basically across the board. But let's see the House. The House, there's still a little bit of it can still go both ways, but it seems likely that it's going to go a Republican control. What I was saying. So I think the presence of Trump helps on two things. So besides what we already talked about, the economy and all of that, and the fact that, this election was really important, because I agree with Musk. This was, if this would have gone the other way around, this would have been the last election. Now, depending on how good of a job they do in the first 4 years, this can be like actually a 12-year ruling at least. And the reason being, AI will boost productivity, I'm convinced, dramatically. Now, is this thanks to Trump? If AI boosts productivity, can we say thank you, Trump, for tripling our GDP? Of course not. But he will take credit, just the same way that he would take the blame if something opposite would happen. This is how it is. Look, it's nothing to do about him. For example, if we go to Bill Clinton's library in Arkansas, you say, when Bill Clinton got into office, only 8% Americans had cell phones. By the time he left, 64% had cell phones. Yeah, sure, but was he the one making the phones? No. Was he the one pushing for the phones to be built? No. He happened to be president-elect. So when I'm saying this, I'm not attacking Bill Clinton. It's just how politicians will always take credit for the good things that are happening out there. Surprise, surprise, right? But I was saying, on Bitcoin and crypto in general, you have two sides. Number one, the relaxation of the SEC stance. I think Trump's position with crypto is very simple. I don't even know if he likes it or not. I think he says, look, this is clearly a big industry and this is clearly a growth industry. So if it's going to be that case, we want the US to be in the leading position and to have people sending their money over here. Now, that only happens if you have a regulator that is not, I wouldn't say helpful, but it's not trying to do witch hunts like the current SEC is doing. The current SEC is lost case after case after case after case and keeps on pushing and overreaching, getting fined for overreaching, etc., etc. So you need the regulator not to basically close their eyes and pretend they don't do their work. No, but they need to be. They shouldn't be an instrument of a specific industry, like it has been, unfortunately, used as of recent. So this is also obviously good for Pulse Chain, PulseX, etc., because it's one of the targeted coins by the SEC. On the other side is obviously the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. Now, if let's say by September, July, August 2025. He says we're going to create the strategic reserve and we're going to transfer all the confiscated Bitcoin into that wallet and we're not going to sell anything. I think most likely that's going to be the top, because it's such a positive news that I don't see what you basically priced for the utmost perfection, which is the number one country on the planet as firmly and without a shadow of a doubt really position Bitcoin as a key asset, which means there's very little to look forward to because a massive event has already happened. Now, so that's one. But if he says, oh, we're going to just buy Bitcoin until we have 5% of the supply, regardless of the price, so we are looking at it in terms of number of Bitcoins, not the dollar value of those, then of course anything is possible. Then, so what I'm trying to say here is impossible for anyone with certainty say that A or B is going to happen. So far, it seems that A is the most likely one because this is what I said in the Bitcoin conference. So on one side, he just wanted to basically have a strategic reserve made by the confiscated Bitcoin, while Robert Kennedy, as you know, wanted 5% supply under the US control. Is Robert Kennedy going to be able to convince Donald Trump? Is Donald Trump going to be somewhere in the middle? Who knows? That's the point. At the moment, nobody knows. Obviously, if they say, look, we're just going to buy X amount of Bitcoin per month, regardless of the price, then yes, I agree with you, with all of you, then the sky is the limit. I think with him being elected, as I've said before, and I keep the same consistent messaging, if she had won, I think we would have a 2020-21 cycle. Since he won, I think we're going to have a 2016-2017 cycle. Potentially a super cycle. Is it clear now? No. If somebody can tell you that it's absolutely clear, they are lying to you. Simple. So, in summary, quite the development, quite the interesting things happening. I was afraid that they would pull the 14th Amendment Section 3 against him, but the victory was so decisive by him sweeping all the swing states, including Nevada, by the way. He's going to flip Nevada, which has not been Republican since 2004. He won the Bronx, I think, in New York, which didn't happen since 1988. I mean, it has been a complete. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they do a very good job. Let me throw this out there, and then you guys can destroy me and make fun of me in the comment section. If he does a very good job, I don't put it beyond me that we're going to see New York maybe going Democrat within 5, 6, 7% next election. And I wouldn't put it beyond me that New Jersey flips red at all. I don't see why not. We will see. The election just happened, so let's not think about let's not think so much in advance. I think the biggest thing is, I think democracy will be kept, and this has not been the last election. I think it's very interesting the type of people that he managed to bring under his wing. You see what's happening in the Middle East. Yet somehow he managed to get the endorsement of both sides, which is quite incredible. He already got very positive messages by both sides in Russia and Ukraine, and by both sides in the conflict happening in the Middle East, which gives me hope for peace, which at the end of the day, as I've said, I would have voted for him. My cup of tea is not him. My cup of tea is a person like Vivek. I've told you guys before. But I do recognize that he is playing a key role, and I do recognize that if we achieve peace is one of the main concerns that I had for voting for him. Number one was crypto. That's number one. Sorry, number one was peace. Number two was crypto. Obviously, the number two has already happened. But in any case, I think I feel better with the results today than if it had gone the other way around. And I hope that the US figures out how to one day have a single day counting like any other of the major countries. And please fix your voting system. All the developed countries have voter ID and have, paper ballots. I mean, this should be really, this is, voting one-on-one, right? I mean, you need an ID for everything, right? Nobody can live without an ID for extended periods of time. And since you cannot provide a good excuse of why you want this, it leaves people to conclude that, okay, you want to leave the optionality of cheating. That's basically what you're trying to do. But in any case, positive day, positive developments, all going according to plan. Let's see that Bitcoin above 80K before the end of the month. So then I can come here and say, see, got another one, right? And I do it for free. And with that, thank you very much for your support. Don't forget, drop like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Oh, and by the way, I'm very curious to see all the celebrities living. Bye, Bill Gates. Bye, Miley Cyrus. I hope you have fun living in Canada or someplace else. And with that, I leave you be. Thank you, guys.